Welcome to PlumbScore. My name is Josh, and I'm the founder of PlumbScore.com. I wanted to thank you personally, and I'm excited that you've just taken a significant step toward gaining total financial control over your business. Most trade contractors grow their revenue only to find that their profit doesn't follow. PlumbScore was built to help you see the truth behind your numbers, identifying that margin drift before it becomes a crisis, without getting stuck in the weeds of complex accounting. First thing I want to show you is weekly numbers, as this is what you will first come across after doing the onboarding process. But this is your weekly ritual of going through and entering these 5 numbers. Now, if you're unfamiliar with or you don't currently have a method for getting these numbers, there's a couple of steps that you can take. So the first one would be help me with QuickBooks. Most of you guys are going to be using QuickBooks. And so there's this little icon up here and a button that takes you here. So how to map your numbers. You pull a profit and loss report for the previous week in QuickBooks Online, and then you map the line items as follows. And then it takes you through the automating of a report to send to you every Monday morning. Once you follow these steps, you should receive a report in your email every Monday morning with these 5 numbers, and then it's a manual entry. Now that may seem archaic. However, there is incredible power in manually entering in these numbers so that you can see what's going on in the past week. But you'll put in your revenue, your labor costs, your material costs, equipment costs, and overhead estimate. And then you'll hit save. Now, if you're doing this manual and you don't currently have QuickBooks and you need some help to calculate what was your revenue for last week, there's this little button up here, which allows you to, if you had a couple of jobs, you can put in a brief description and then how much it was, how much you charged the customer, and that allows you to calculate your revenue. And then down here, labor cost, again, how many people, what was the average hourly rate, how many hours. Same with material costs. If you need to break it down by category. So here's the pipe fittings, if you want to add an item, piping itself, and input those. That allows you to do it. For equipment cost, we have your weekly equipment costs. So if with your tool rental or lease payments, equipment rental, and that will help you calculate that out, as well as the tool amortization. That just simply means that, so the example here is a pressure washer, but if you have a tool that you're going to use on several jobs, this gives you the ability to break down how much is that tool per job, so that you're taking all things into account for that job. And then you've got your overhead estimate as well. And this is broken down to monthly costs and yearly costs. Welcome to the dashboard. Now, if you haven't yet put in your weekly numbers, which is over here, and you default to going here if you haven't already. But if you see that there's this message up here, says enter numbers for week 14, then you can do a direct link by clicking this button. Otherwise, what should happen is that you see this pop up after putting your weekly numbers in. Now there's a little icon up here that says last week. So obviously that's the numbers that are for last week. It just lets you know what you're looking at. Up on top are 6 cards. You have your revenue, is what you input manually. From that, what your net profit was after materials, labor, equipment, and overhead. Net margin is at 2.5%. Now my target was 10%, so I'm down 7.5%. Prime percentage, this is where prime is your labor and your materials. You have your fixed cost, which is your equipment and overhead, but then these are your variable your variables. So my target was 53%, and I'm up on that. So either labor or materials, I was up on, and we'll find out exactly which one here soon. Break-even revenue. This is important to know that just to pay off your bills and pay your people, this is what needed to be made, was the 19,500. So that brings us back to what the net profit was based off of revenue, that it was 500. Now, what's important to note, why is net profit important? Well, net profit is your insurance money, right? If you have a slow week, um, or if you're planning to expand and build, this is what you're pulling from. So if your net profit right now, if it's 2.5%, and I'm looking at 500, well, gosh, one mechanical fix for a vehicle could wipe this out easily. So that's why there's so much emphasis on reining in your margin to make sure that we're hitting that target of 10% or higher, so that we can have that financial clarity to know where that money's going, as well as to know what needs to be addressed internally, to get us back at our targets. So overall, though, I'm stable. So the grade is 84 out of 100, as far as getting close to what my targets were. Weekly assessment. This is the powerful tool that's going to show you, um, where where there's an opportunity to improve. So this is showing that my material cost is way too high and it's eating at my profits. That I did really well on labor and overhead, but that materials is showing that it cost me 2,000 this week. So that goes back to how I'm pricing my jobs. And we'll get into the tool that's Job Estimator to help me more accurately get those, pricing of the jobs. But there's also this opportunity to address the materials themselves, where can we negotiate better prices with the vendors? Do we have a solid way of tracking material waste? Or if there's exploring an alternative for more cost-effective materials for upcoming projects. This is the biggest thing right here. This is huge. If we resolve this $2,000 that we went over in material costs, if we can address that and get that down, then here's our annual savings is $104,000. That's an incredible amount of money back in our pocket simply because we address these issues up front. Now, the other cards that are on your dashboard, you're going to find your margin stack. So this is the revenue. That's how much you made that week. And then here's your deductions, your labor, materials, equipment, overhead, and net profit. So target variance, this is looking at specifically at what your labor was. So I came out to 30%, which was a little bit less than than my goal. So it was favorable. But this is the big kicker, and the primary issue for this week is that I was 10% over. Equipment, I was also over, but overhead, I was a little bit under. For the next card, how you compare. This one is an industry. It's looking at your industry. So my profile, I've got this under construction, and so net margin is highly unfavorable this week, which will happen. But this is just letting you know where you stand as far as benchmarks. And then here's your break-even analysis. It's just a quick snapshot of looking at what your break-even was, the current revenue, and the difference between those, what you made. All right, the next thing that we're going to look at is targets. Now, this will look familiar because it's what you saw for the onboarding. But in this case, if you want to adjust your targets, this is where you would go. Now, this here is pretty valuable. After you put in your annual revenue target, if you want to adjust it, you can. There will be little buttons that pop up later messages that tell you that things have changed. But with this revenue tracker, this is going to show you how you're doing so far based on what your target was in terms of your pace. If you want to update that revenue directly, you can do this. Otherwise, each week that you input your revenue, it adds towards this. So this is a quick breakdown of revenue to date, what's expected by now, your annual target, and the remaining to the goal. All right, so for cost structure, again, it's broken down into materials, labor, equipment, and overhead. And finally, your net margin. Now, the net margin is automatically calculated based on what you input for your materials, your labor, equipment, and overhead. So if I go up in materials by 1%, you can see how it has reduced your net margin from 12 now to 10 because I went up 2 percentage points. And the impact is that you're down 20 grand than from where you started. So, and then if I want to save this, I can do a save targets. There's also this AI assessment. It'll break down all of those to say, what you should be looking out for. But now if I go into my dashboard, I'll see that there's the targets were adjusted this week, and it gives you a quick shout out as to what was changed and how that affects your margins. All right. Next thing that we're going to do is jump to Job Estimator. Now, if you are a new business and this is something that you're wanting to figure out from the get-go, right after you do the onboarding process and you're putting in all your business information, it prompts you to either input your numbers for last week, or it brings you here to the Job Estimator. And what this is, it's a powerful tool to give you all the inputs that you might need to cost out your job correctly, and then make sure that you're profitable on each job. So if we jump into this and we say that this is going to be a repair, we can also save it. Estimated labor hours, if we estimate it out to be 4, we can either manually input it as to what we think it might be, if we wanted to be really quick and just go through and bust this out, we could do that. Or if you wanted to go into the nitty gritty and to say, all right, this is a little bit of a bigger job, so I want to make sure that I'm doing this correctly. So we'll call this the rough-in. That takes 1 hour. Add a task, measuring and pipe cutting. That's going to take me 2 hours. So the total here is 3 hours, and it's based off of what we calculated. Labor rate, how much are you charging your customers per hour? We'll say it's 85 for now. Materials, how much are your materials costing on this job? So the distinguisher is that with your materials, it's anything that is going to be left on the job. So down here, this is a quick description: parts, pipe fittings, fixtures, anything that stays on the job. So materials wise, we'll just say that it's $250 or so. But if you want, you can click on here and do it. Help me calculate and break it down by item. If you want to get into the nitty gritty of it. Equipment and tools. You'll notice this is similar to your weekly inputs, but this gives you the chance to break down and prompt you for every tool that you're using out on a job site. And then this tool amortization, that allows you to input a tool that you're going to take off the job site, and you put in your expected life of that tool, and based off of the purchase cost. So you could add 30 tools if you wanted to, and get a more accurate feedback to say, well, this is how much it's going to be on a weekly cost, and later it, mathematically it's going to break it down by how many jobs you expect to do that week. But then we can jump into weekly overhead. So I'm just going to put 350 weekly overhead. If you need help in calculating that, this comes up here to calculate that out. Truck and vehicle payments, vehicle insurance, general liability, fuel estimate, facility rent or lease, and then you have your yearly costs as well. And again, if you put in these yearly costs and these monthly costs, then the system on the back end is going to divide that out into a weekly and job per job basis to give you that accurate quote number. So weekly overhead, we'll just say it's 300. I'm expecting to do 5 jobs, and I want to do 10% margin to go with my goal. So then I hit calculate, and then here's the results. So based on your inputs for a repair, labor cost, overhead per job, so it's breaking down everything that I input. Your prime percentage, remember that's labor and materials, gives you your gross profit, your net margin percentage, net profit, and then your target price. So this includes this 10% margin goal on your repair that you need to charge at least $1,000, and your break even is $915. Anything below that and you lose money on this job. If I click Save Estimate, what that does is it creates my estimate up here. And now what I can do is if I go into it, say edit that estimate, it just essentially brings me back in here, and I can adjust based on maybe after that job is done to show, what was it actually. Let me bump these up. Estimated labor hours. Materials wasn't as much. It came out to 190, and so on and so forth. Do a quick calculate, gives me the results. I'm going to update that estimate. Now, if I wanted to copy to a new, because the beauty is that equipment and tools and your weekly overhead, that should be fixed costs. So if we've dialed these in, then they shouldn't change, and we should have those numbers secured in. But what does change is going to be the job type, your estimated labor hours, your labor rate should stay the same, right? But your materials and your equipment and tools costs, those things will shift. But this copy to new just allows you to create a new one. We'll just say estimate number 2. And then if we hit calculate, it's showing us kind of the same thing, but then we can save it. And now we've got 2 estimates in there to help us price out the jobs correctly. Alrighty, next one is resources. So right now, this is how resources is broken down. I wanted to create an opportunity for you guys to know what your resources are in terms of mentorships and organizations, some great books on building up your business. There's some great podcasts and YouTube, and then blogs and industry tools as well. So this mentorship and organizations, I highly recommend it. There's some great, like the SCORE mentorship, that's free. SBDC is a free mentorship as well in Arizona. So great way to connect with industry experts, guys who will help you build your business. Some books that are great that you might have already read, the podcasts and YouTube, just some great resources there as well, and blogs and industry tools. Okay. Baseline software stack. So I wanted to give you an idea if you're starting out. This is just a great way to look at what tools are readily available. And so at the top here, your example setup, I've broken it down into 4 primary ways or primary avenues that you need in order to essentially run your business. You've got a way to run your jobs, to do your accounting, to do reporting, and payments. So for run your jobs, if you're growing really fast or you're already pretty large, Service Titan is one of the leading industry softwares to use. And this is for field service management. So you'll get this brief description talking about, what do you need for running your jobs, and then this goes into a brief detail on what works or what these specific softwares do and how much they cost. So there's run your jobs, track your money. QuickBooks is pretty standard, but there's also Xero. It's a little bit cheaper. There's some strong, capabilities, but this is pretty off. What often businesses use is QuickBooks. Seeing your profit and understanding your margin. There's one industry standard and best practice because there's only one, and that's PlumbScore. And accounting is slow. This gives you real-time clarity on whether your week is actually profitable. So there's definitely the advantage of using PlumbScore, and you guys already know that's why you're here and why you're using it. Collect your cash. A lot of these are already built in, but if you use something separate, you might use Stripe or Square. Those are tools that allow you to collect payment on site. Other tools optional for marketing, estimating, photo documentation, reviews, communication. So there's a couple of extra tools. Down here is your account settings and an opportunity to do with this little pop-up feedback, or if you want to refer a friend, you could earn a free month. If you're looking for help and support, there is a way to email us feedback, and then documentation is to come here pretty soon. But then you also have frequently asked questions and support hours down there. And we will go to account settings. So this is where you can change a few things: the company name, their phone number, location, that sort of thing. Check-in preferences. If you find that you want to enter in those numbers at the end of the week, you can switch it up here. Here's some reminder preferences if you want your margin alerts. Up here is your security. So if you want to change your password, enter in a new password, that's where you can do it here. And then if you want to delete your account, that is available right here. Before you delete your account, there's a couple of steps to go through. If you want to download your data as a CSV file or Excel file, you can do that just in case you decide later on that you want to come back to PlumbScore. You can upload that data, and otherwise you could do a skip and continue. You're going to be offered a free month in case you would like to try it for a little bit longer. Otherwise, you do no thanks and type in delete, and your account is deleted along with all of your information that you've input so far. All right, if we go back here to notifications, this is where you can put in your preferred check-in day. If you want to set your alerts to what your minimum net margin percentage is, that's where you can put that in. Billing information, including what your current plan is on this page. If you want to upgrade to go to any of these other advanced tiers, you can. This is a quick comparison and breakdown of what these tiers offer and provide. And then if you have any billing history, it's provided there as well. Accepted terms. Once you accept the terms, You have the opportunity to download them if you want, or to review them here, but that's where they're found. Thanks again for joining PlumbScore. I hope this tutorial was helpful.